Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Trending in Hollywood. I am Scott Menzel. Nice to be here with you this Friday morning. Joining me is Mr. Dimitri Pana.
Hey, everybody. Is today a special episode, Scott? You sounded in today's Trending in Hollywood. Dimitri has a drug problem.
Excited about the Oscar conversation for today. And
I'm sorry, the what?
The Oscar conversation. The
when are they on? The Oscar the Grouch.
Sunday.
They're from a trash can, right? The Muppet. The Oscars on this Sunday?
Yeah.
Well, they've done a great job advertising.
Yeah. They know they have. They're too worried about being in person. So they're not too worried about anything else.
You know, I think by setting themselves up, because the Oscars, the big thing this year is they're taking place at Union Station in downtown Los Angeles, which is a very nice train station. You've seen it in a bunch of movies. For me, the one that I always go back to is it's in Blade Runner, but it's in a ton of movies because it has this 40s Art Deco, really old Hollywood kind of style to it. But I think it leaves themselves open for too many, like, the Oscars have left the station.
Yes, I totally think that's going to happen, where there's going to be a lot of punny stuff happening.
Yes.
So we'll see.
All
right, but we'll save that for the end of the show. We'll end on the Oscars since it's the last thing we should talk about before we close. But going back to what Dimitri loves to call the Trending in Hollywood 360, we talked about this last week, and I don't think a day went by this week, Dimitri, correct me if I'm wrong, that we have not heard about this man right here.
Scott Rubin? Sam Rubin? No, there has not been a day that we haven't heard about Scott Rudin. And I gotta be honest, for me anyways, it's like, oh, Hollywood finally woke. Really? Like, Gail Ann Hurd said it best, and Gail Ann Hurd, she's worked with James Cameron, produced some great movies throughout her career. She's been around for a while, and she's like, Hollywood remains silent on him and others. And they're still kind of remaining silent on him today. Like, there aren't any executives who are coming out. And, we talked about this last week. This has been ongoing since Sister Act. I mean, I think the first story I ever heard, and we talked about, it was Whoopi Goldberg had a huge blowout with him. But Hollywood does nothing. They allow it. They give him awards, and it's not just him. And right now it's just laughable that everybody's coming down on him. It's like, where were you 30 years ago? Like, you knew what was going on. You knew this guy had a temper. Like, this wasn't a secret within Hollywood. And now all of a sudden, the PGA is launching a workplace harassment task force. Ooh, you know how much there's been harassment in Hollywood?
There you go.
I mean, I was hurt. Listen, I've been there, and it happened in Boston. Like, it happened when I worked for Hoyt Cinemas. I'm going to name the guy. I don't care. I don't know where he is today. His name was Carl Bertolino. He had worked for various exhibitors. He'd worked at General Cinemas for a while. He worked at 20th Century Fox in the Boston branch when studios had branches all over the country. And he worked for Hoyt Cinemas. And he was the devil. He was the devil. And I saw, and I was the brunt of it. And he would be the kind of guy that says, if you don't like the way I'm treating you, go up to human resources and see what they tell you. He goes, I'm going to be around here a lot longer than you are. Stuff like that. And so, Scott Rudin has had a reputation for a long time. And I'm like, now all of a sudden, Hollywood, Broadway, oh, he's so mean. Yeah, he's been mean for 30 years. It's not like this just happened. And it's just, and the guy's made he's made $1 bazillion. So hearing him say, oh, I'm going to step back from this. Oh, I'm going to step back from that. Yeah, to me, all that means is he's going to take a nice long vacation. He could retire. Who cares? Yeah, he's stepping back. The one thing I haven't heard from him is an apology.
Yeah.
Like I've heard it from his representatives have apologized for him. Do you have representatives, Scott?
No, I do not.
Yeah, I wish I had representatives who can go apologize to people who are snarky to or whatever. But he publicly has not come out and said, you know what? That was an ass. I'm sorry. But it's just crazy to me that all of a sudden everybody's up in arms and they allow the behavior to go on for 30 years at least.
Well, I want to bring, it's interesting you say that. One of the things, this article I found to be fairly fascinating, and I want to read some of the stuff that's in it. People speaking on his background argue the following: I'm not condoning the behavior, but it's hardly news that Rudin is a horrendous bully, and if you work for him, it's on you. I'm not condoning it, but there are very few people at this level of taste and access to material. I'm not condoning it, but he trained a lot of people who went on to have successful careers. What are we going to do? Cancel everyone?
No, just him. Cancel everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm not condoning it, but it's on you, the victim of his bullying. Look, I also said that I knew a person. I was very good friends with him. He was one of the first people that I met. He was one of the first people that I met when I moved to Los Angeles. His name is Jose. He worked as one of Scott Rudin's assistants. And part of the reason why he worked for him, and he knew his reputation, but Jose loved movies. He loves his wife. He married his dream girl. He loved movies, and he loved Broadway, and he loved cooking. And he's a great, gracious host, friend, everything. And he had the opportunity, and he took the opportunity to work with Scott Rudin because Rudin's ties to Hollywood and to Broadway. It was a path that he wanted to, like, if he were to stay in the industry and become a producer himself, that's he wanted to be that dual, like, Hollywood movies and produce Broadway plays. Now, he was the complete 180 of Scott Rudin. I would never consider this person to be a bully. He was a really generous, great person. He and his wife, they packed up, they moved, and I don't think he works in the business anymore. I think he moved from where he came from, which is, I believe, Miami, and I think he actually might have opened a restaurant or something. So, but I remember the stories that he said of Rudin. And, he put up for it. He put up with it for, I don't know, I think a year, maybe a year and a half, 2 years. And then he became Burt Reynolds' assistant, which he said was a lot of fun. But in any case, it's, that executive, it's such an horrible thing to say. Don't you agree? I mean, I don't condone it, but he has a talent, and people have moved on. Actually, if you read the article that you sent me,
the
one that comes from Vulture, I specifically read every sentence. That's the one. Now it's told, it was said that it was going to span like the early 90s into today, and I was wondering if they had reached out to this gentleman Jose to see if he would be quoted in the article. I didn't find his name anywhere, but this article in Vulture does go on to say that, you know, a lot of people didn't really move up or get great gigs after, you know, putting in, you know, they didn't get hazard pay or combat pay, and they pretty much left a shell of a person, and many of them didn't become big producers.
Yes, and I think, you know, one of the people in this article mentioned the salary of $55,000 a year, which, granted, that's not a horrible salary, but I will say, if you're living in the state of California or the state of New York, that is not really great, because it's not going to get you much. You really think about the average rent costs out here, about $1,500 for like a 1-bedroom apartment or whatever, and you times that by, you know, the 12, you're already at like 1/3 of your salary is going just to rent. Right. So I think it's interesting, you know, also within the industry, how people, the pay gap within it is fascinating. But the thing is, Rudin, you know, just like Harvey Weinstein, you know, there's no doubt, as much as he was a monster, there was no doubt that he was good at his job, that he was able to sell an awards movie, that he was able to cut a good trailer, that he was able to take a movie that was too long and basically put it, you know, he got his Scissorhands name because of that, because he was able to take something and really chop it up and actually make it short and make it work. Sometimes filmmakers didn't like it. Sometimes it worked for them. But the thing is, you don't award people for being dicks or being assholes. It just doesn't work.
At least to that level, right?
Yeah, at any level, and it's strange. And I'm not saying that people are not jerks. I think there's so many people in Hollywood that are jerks. From the talent to the PR reps, to the studio reps, to producers, to writers. You know, they're there. There's very few people who I think are generally nice people when you see them multiple times, whenever level you're at. I don't think there's a lot of people that exist like that. I think a lot of these people are show business. They're putting on, it's in the title. People are putting on a show every step of the way.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean that you should be able to treat someone like crap. It doesn't mean that. And I don't care whether you're getting paid $20 an hour or you're getting paid $200,000 a year. The bottom line is you deserve to be treated with respect, and your opinion should be, taken into consideration. And you don't have to yell, and you don't have to throw, and you don't have to threaten.
No.
Just listen, have an opinion, but remain calm. Don't threaten.
Agreed. And one thing too that you left out regarding Scott Rudin, is he was able to pick projects.
Yes.
He was able to pick good projects. Were all of them hits? No, but the ones that were hits were huge hits. They more than made up for the clunkers. And then, of course, he did the same on Broadway.
Right.
That's kind of a big deal when you have that sensibility. I mean, to me, that's a talent, and it's wasted on a guy that's perfectly evil. But, to your point, Scott, I've been in work situations out here. Again, I'm not going to name names. I won't even name the studio that I was working for at the time. But I was working for this woman, and one time she came over. She was standing behind me, hands at her hips. She asked me to call somebody for her. Sure, not a problem. I started dialing the number. It was a push button phone. And she literally had a face like she sucked on a lemon. And she goes, I really hate the way you dial a phone. And I'm like, who says that? And I sat there. I was like so stunned. I go, wow, then don't stand behind me when I type. I couldn't believe like she was serious.
Oh yeah, no, I don't doubt it.
The way you dial a phone. And I'm like, wow, that's such wonderful feedback that's going to get me through my Hollywood career. And maybe that's why. Maybe that's what has stalled everything, is because people don't like the way I dial a phone. But this is the personalities that you're dealing with. And I've had some great bosses as well. And they stay near and dear to my heart for being encouraging, for having faith in you, for treating you like an adult. But in the case of a Scott Rudin, everybody up in arms right now because of that article that came out 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks
I'm
ago,
yeah. Hollywood, we had this conversation this week. Hollywood, this one's on you. I'm sorry. Like, you can be upset at Scott Rudin now, but Hollywood, you allowed this to happen. Broadway, you allowed this to happen. You knew. You knew this.
I think there is also, an underlining factor here, and I know, some people will disagree when I say this, and that's fine. Everyone's entitled their opinion. I'm totally supportive of that. But I feel some of the reservation about this is the fact that Scott Rudin is gay. I think we're starting to see this a lot more come to light in the last couple of years, when it started with female voices in the industry of you can't say anything bad about female voices, believe women, and I'm not saying that I shouldn't believe women when I say this, but you kind of have to have the facts. You have to have the details. Just because one person comes out and says something and then another person, comes out and says something on the other side saying that's complete bullshit. It really does become he said, she said stuff, right? And and this is why I love a movie like Promising Young Woman, because it kind of explores those dynamics and showing how in the movie that both females and males were both guilty of bad behavior and turning a blind eye. Right now, we live in this world in the entertainment industry that it's like all or nothing. You're either for women or you're against women. You're for the LGBTQ community or you're against the LGBTQ community. You're for, as stupid as this is, right? There's conversations going on about Chadwick Boseman and whether or not he deserves to win on Sunday. And if you don't agree with it, how dare you? You're a racist. And no. This is not how this works. This is literally just like you're looking at something and you're kind of saying you're weighing the facts based on 5 performances, based on the information that's here. Who am I siding with? Who do I agree with? Do I even have an opinion right now? No. Right. And I think a lot of this stuff kind of stemmed in Hollywood with Scott Rudin is the fact that at the time he's one of the few who was out and a producer who was well known. It's not nowadays. If something like this happens, it's not as much as let's leave this alone, because you have Asian representation, you have Black representation, you have you have transgender, you have all this stuff. But when he was there, he wasn't. He was like one of the unique guys. Like, he was unique to it. So it almost was like we just excused the behavior because of the fact that we didn't want to call him out, and we were afraid. Hollywood was afraid.
But you don't have to call him out on that. Again, They were afraid
it's like almost interchangeable now, Dimitri. That's the problem. It literally like it's like this person's bad. Why are they bad? And like if you feel that way, it's like, oh, you're against the gay community or you're against this, and it's like, no, I'm not. I'm just
against bad people.
Sucks.
Right? Yeah, I don't care. Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. It's a valid point. I think I got to add the other layer is that he made people a ton of money. Again, I brought up this article that was in Hollywood Reporter last year or something. They were talking about Bryan Singer, who also has a reputation, and producers of the X-Men movies. They were like, yeah, we knew of his reputation. And again, being gay had nothing to do with it. It was just, we knew of his reputation, but what could we say? The guy made us a ton of money on X-Men. So of course we're going to have him back for X-Men 2.
Yeah.
So I think that's the Rudin. I think that happened with Rudin. That happens with Joel Silver.
Yeah.
Well, but I don't even call it like, again, Don Simpson also had a major, outside of the coke problem, he too had a reputation for being an a-hole to his assistants. And this has been rampant in Hollywood, but they allow it. I mean, I'm sorry to all of a sudden, Scott, you've said this before. Oh, there's a problem. Oh, we'll fix it now. Even though it's been a problem for like ever. It's like, it's a cause. Now it's a cause.
Yeah.
And it's like, we have to fix this now. Oh, we're going to make laws against this. Yeah, well, where were you in the 80s and 90s where you were just letting, kids who were coming out of college and they were getting the crap kicked out of them for like, not understanding a food order correctly or saying Scott Rubin's office accidentally on the first day of the job. It's been allowed, and Hollywood knows about these bad people. They know about it. Trust me too. Within the exhibition and the distribution world, people know of other people's reputations. They do, but they just, people knew of this Carl Bertolino guy that I had the misfortune of working in his presence for a year. And what did I do? I quit. He was actually part of my inspiration for moving out to California. I was like, I can't take this anymore. I'm worth more than this. So people have reputations that are known within the industry, and yet Hollywood, CEOs of companies, they allow it to happen. They've just let it happen. There were people at another studio that I worked with for many years. I know for a fact they had files and human resources that were as thick as War and Peace. And they kept their jobs. They kept getting raises. They kept getting promotions. And everybody knew. So to me, this is Hollywood. This is a Hollywood problem. This isn't an assistant problem. And Hollywood's known about this for a long time. Right now that you're playing catch up, to me, is kind of sad and laughable because you grew this monster and many monsters as well throughout the industry. I can forgive a person having a bad day. You can't forgive the behavior of sending someone to the hospital or psychiatry bills, or you can't forgive that. But Hollywood's forgiven it for years, and now they all of a sudden now they want to fix it.
Well, to my point that I was making just a few minutes ago as well, Dimitri.
Mm-hmm.
And we this is a, and I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just going to throw this out there.
Yeah,
Megan Allison.
Yeah.
Last week had an article come out.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't nearly see as much coverage about that.
No, we don't.
It's literally one and done.
Yep.
And I hate to say this, but again, the flavor of the week. It's right now as a show. We joke about this all the week, every week about being white guys on a show.
Middle-aged.
Yeah. It's the attacking ground right now. And the funny thing is that this exists. Again, not justifying these people. We're literally telling you on this show, these people should be fucking fired. We're telling you that. But this happens across the board. Women, people of color, everyone is guilty of this.
Yeah.
Because it comes with this position of power.
Absolutely.
The more power you have, the more you think you have the right to delegate that power and treat people underneath you like they don't matter.
Yeah.
And that's what Hollywood builds. Hollywood builds monsters.
It does. And it's like I said, that story where I was working at that was a woman. That was a woman. You know, I'm so glad you brought up Megan Ellison, because she too is another woman who's had a reputation. She's had a reputation for being not nice. She wins a couple of Academy Awards, and there you go. Have at it. Do whatever you want. You know. Again, I can forgive people in bad days. We all have them. But when you have a reputation and you have to sign an NDA about someone, again, Hollywood, you're over 30, 40, 50 years late. And again, this is a trend, though. Even if you read books about 30s Hollywood, 40s Hollywood, people were just, they wouldn't be nice to other people.
No, and the thing is, what people don't understand is, and again, I don't understand why these patterns, like people don't realize these patterns, right? It's like there's some sort of unwritten rule where once the floodgate opens, like once someone comes forward, there seems to be like this seal of approval that everyone could kind of come out.
It's pack mentality.
Yeah, it's the pack mentality, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just funny because you see all these, now you see like there was the thing that happened on Broadway where the actress said that she's not going to work anymore. And then you got Hugh Jackman coming out, issue statements. I mean, it's just like people just jump on, and then they just beat it down. They beat it down. They beat it down. And it's like you said, not new. This is literally Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, and
the industry.
And I'm willing to bet. Yep.
In the 80s.
Yes.
So like, why does it take so long for this to happen? And this is the difference. And we're not going to go into details about this, but this is the difference between when you hear a single story that happens that like seems like a lover dispute between an actor and someone they're dating or whatever it is, and someone who is generally has a history and a long history of being a dick. They're there, and there's a difference.
Absolutely, there's a
relationship breakups that don't work. There's marriages that won't work. And if anyone thinks that like George Clooney or Matt Damon or Ben Affleck or anyone who's like really popular has not been in a bad relationship where they lost their temper or threw something at someone or did something, you are clearly living underneath some sort of rock that I wish I was under with you, because it's just not reality.
Absolutely.
But the bad behavior of someone in power who threatens to end people's careers or treats them like shit day in and day out, these people are who we need to be focusing on and should have been focusing on getting rid of a long time ago.
Yeah, and they should be outing these people. Yeah. They should have been doing this like a long time ago if you want to fix the problem. You know, I do believe that there can be people out there who are talented. Hell, Scott, people can hire us. I think we'd be talented at picking out a good script. Just saying. Yeah. I think, you know, and Scott, you're genuinely a nice guy. You're a mensch. Me, whatever. But I'm just saying, like, I'm sure that there are some good people out there. Now, I know that the opposite argument is you need a tough as nails person to stand up to agents and managers and blah, 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 and studio execs to get that vision done. There can be a fine balance. It is work. And you know what? It's movies, people. It's not rocket science. And the way movies are made today, look, Scott Rudin had a talent for picking good stories, for picking movies that audiences would like. And they weren't cookie cutter. They weren't like what you would call franchise pictures. I don't know how many sequels that guy produced outside of Sister Act 2, but he's done a lot of movies that audiences generally enjoyed, and he's done dramas, right? There are other people I think that could have this talent without being Scott Rudin or Megan Ellison or any of the people that we talk to. So Hollywood has to out this, and they should have been doing it a long time ago. Rudin was allowed to grow and become more of this bully. Hollywood seeded him, they watered him, and he grew into a monster that they all just accepted. Now, Hugh Jackman, I find that funny. You're like, come on. I'm willing to bet that Hugh Jackman sat at a nice restaurant in New York City across the table from Scott Rudin.
Of course.
I'm willing to bet. And he knew. Again, he knew. He had to have known. So it's, it's this whole thing.
I think celebrities should stay out of stuff unless like they have it. Because to me, I love Hugh Jackman. Mm-hmm. And like the thing is like when I see stuff like this, it just seems like a press move.
Right.
Like because it was like there was a video a couple of years ago after the Harvey Weinstein thing of like Meryl Streep and all these really famous people like gathering around him, and all of them kind of like just sucking up to him. And like you sort of like you kind of look at those people then and you're like, why did you why did you let this happen when you knew your colleagues were having this stuff happen to them, when this stuff was happening on your sets?
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't like thinking about that aspect of the business, but it goes to show you how easily it is until someone has the courage to come out and really say something.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone kind of jumps on board with the, like you said, the herd mentality. But I don't know. I don't get it. But
I don't get it.
We spent 33 minutes on this. Let's move on to another topic.
Okay, let's.
All right. So this kind of comes off the heels of something we also talked about last week. And that was Netflix and Sony setting a massive deal. Now Disney and Sony set a massive deal. And of course, Marvel fans are going to be super happy about this because that means, guess what? Their Marvel Spider-Man movies are going to be on Disney Plus.
On Disney Plus. Another huge forward-thinking deal for Sony. It's great. It's a great collaboration. If you recall, Scott, the Spider-Man franchise was actually almost thrown into disarray because Disney and Sony were kind of fighting it out. In fact, I think it didn't come out. There's going to be no more Spider-Mans. And then, Disney and Sony made up, and now we actually kind of know how well they made up. Because I think this is a huge deal for Sony, like a really big deal, because they can continue making their movies, and now they're going to have a platform of which these Marvel movies can go to, and they're still going to be making money. Huge deal.
I agree. I mean, and it's interesting because as we talked about again on previous shows, is that there's so many streaming platforms now, and you start adding those up, and you start looking at them, and you're kind of like, okay, which ones do I really watch? And they're almost like they start changing. And I mean, I know for you it's different because you like the catalog, but like for me personally, like a Disney Plus, like when it comes up to a renewal rate for me right now, there's very little that's going to convince me to keep a Disney Plus, because my viewing habits have changed. So I've been watching a lot of stuff like on Peacock now. So to me, if I was going to pay for a service and I had those two side by side, I'm going to go with Peacock now.
Right.
And I think as we continue to grow and this industry continues to evolve and streaming becomes, again, just everyone has an app, you're going to have deals like this where like Sony has to collectively decide and say, you know what? There's too much competition. Let's just make deals with apps that already exist and say like, hey, Netflix, you get A, B, and C. Disney Plus, you get, E, F, and G. And you just kind of delegate your content and you get a little deal here, you get a little deal here. And at the end of the day, you're probably going to have just as much success.
Oh, absolutely. And you're not going to have the overhead of people running your app. That's why this is such a great deal for Sony. And yes, I think Terry is saying Sony movies won't go to Disney Plus for like a year. Yeah, that's fine. That means Netflix, is going to lose all that stuff. But Sony is still going to be making money, and Sony's still making movies that Netflix is no longer going to get. So we won't be getting the Venoms on cable and the future Spider-Man movies. And I think they even have one other Marvel. Oh, of course, Sony has the Spider-Verse animated. Yeah, that's Sony. So it makes great sense. And I like how Sony is thinking. Go with Netflix because a ton of people have Netflix. This is a great place for our stuff to go exclusively. Disney, it makes sense because they already have Marvel, and it'll go to Disney Plus exclusively. It's all the Marvel product, so they can continue making Marvel movies. In fact, I'm sure Disney is going to encourage them to make more Marvel movies so that they can feed into the content. It just, to me, it's a really good deal. It's a really good deal.
I think it's also, and I sent you a text message last night about this, and this is something what you need to, like, people need to start doing math on. So HBO Max this week, I don't have an image to show up, said they reached about 44 million subscribers. And the base rate of their service is $15 a month.
Right.
And when you take that and you're kind of like, wow, that's a lot of money. But if you take that and you really do the math on it, it's not as much as you think. In fact, what I basically said to Dimitri was it's about 660 million if everyone was paying the $15 a month. And keep in mind that if you have a service like I do with AT&T, I get HBO Max for free. If you have cable subscription to HBO, you get HBO Max for free. Yep. So you're not really getting that. But let's just take the best case scenario and do the whole number. We'll take the whole number. Everyone's paying $15.
Yeah.
That brings it up to $660 million. So that number seems large. But then when you look at a movie like a Godzilla versus Kong, and you realize that a Godzilla versus Kong costs about $200 million to make, you have that, and you're like, oh, 1/3 of my subscription numbers went to Godzilla versus Kong. And then you take Wonder Woman and you say, oh, that's another $200,000. There it goes. And then you got Tenet, and there you're done. So where are all these other movies coming from? The Conjuring and all this other money. So Dimitri's point that he has made numerous times on the show is that you kind of need both, and you kind of have to divide them up.
Yeah.
Because you have to have both, because you're never going to cover your bases. Which ties into this other stupid article that came out this week, which is this.
This was my favorite.
Revealing $17 billion in content. I mean, they have I forgot what it is. It's almost 200 million subscribers. And again, they have a tiered system. So it's even harder to figure out, because they have one that goes up to $16. And then I think the cheapest one's like 10. So who knows the numbers there, but $17 billion in spending. I mean, no wonder they're coming up as a loss.
Yeah. This is something that we talk about regularly.
Yeah.
I don't know how these people, I don't know how they make money.
They got some great accountants. That's all I know.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't know how they make money. That's 17 billion. Now, granted, they're around the world, but you're right regarding the account. I mean, it makes me, it makes my hair hurt just trying to figure out $17 billion for content. And we already know, like, I forget, how much did The Irishman cost? 200 million plus?
Yeah.
The Irishman?
250, I think. Yeah.
What did the Charlize Theron action movie that came up last year?
About 80. The movie that I love that comes out next week, it's a early plug. The Mitchells and the Machines, which used to be called Connected, that was over at Sony. They paid $110 million for that.
Okay. What about the Ryan Reynolds Michael Bay movie?
I have no idea, but I do know the one with Dwayne Johnson and Gal Gadot and Ryan Reynolds cost about $150 million.
Yeah. I mean, they're spending a ton of money, and it's no wonder why my subscription continues to go up like almost every year. Geez, like they were like my Disney annual pass. Like I could always look forward to that thing going up every year. It's the same thing with Netflix. You know, I always like, in order to keep up with great content, and let's be honest, not all of it's great. I mean, I don't know how much they spent on Thunder Force, but again, not all of it's great. And our subscription rates keep on going up for Netflix. So 17 billion is, to you and me, that's a lot of shekels.
Yeah. I just can't, using the HBO Max thing as an example, right? And using that quality or that type of content that they're going to produce. And before, we used to argue that we can say Netflix wasn't spending that much, right? They were doing the set it ups, and those movies were like $20 million. But now they're in this game where they're doing the Midnight Skies, they're doing the Irishman type movies, they're doing the Ryan Reynolds, Dwayne Johnson movies. They're building this library of content that is expensive. I mean, we talk about The Crown and Bridgerton costing, 150 or 200 million a season.
Right.
And when you literally get to 1 billion in no time. So like, yes, the money is not, like, when you look at that, think about it that way, but you just also have to think about the bottom line is like, you're only charging someone, and I mean, it's funny because you're saying this, but like, it's true. Like, you're only charging someone $15 a month, and they're getting a new $200 million show every single month. And then they're getting a $200 million movie every month. And that number just quickly adds up. And then when you look at the $15 price point, you're like, I don't have to be an accountant, but the math seems off.
Yeah, it seems off. And there's one other thing too that a lot of people don't talk about, Scott, and I think you're going to agree. So you have when you don't have the theatrical to perpetuate the word of mouth, so to speak. When you have a theatrical movie, every week there's the box office reports, and that helps keep movies relevant in people's consciousness, depending on how well the movie's playing out. And they do it for specialty box office, regular box office. That's why we keep on hearing about Godzilla vs. Kong, to be honest with you. Had Godzilla vs. Kong just gone to streaming, we would have heard about it for the week, and that's it. That's it. So when you look at 17 billion in content, like how many people, like you watch the movie on Netflix, you see it, and then you're on to the next. You'll talk about it. You talk about it with people for a day, for a few days. But once you've talked about it, you're already watching the next movie.
Yeah.
And like, it's not staying in the consciousness because there's no reporting on it, so to speak. It's not in the theaters. People will rewatch it in secret, so to speak, because there's nothing reporting. Like, oh, so-and-so movie did X amount this week, and it was only down 40% in its second week. And there's not that self-perpetuating discussion. So once it appears on Netflix, people will watch it within that first 3 days, 5 days, 1 week. And then it's pretty much... you're not talking about it anymore. Yeah. So you're spending a ton of money. Well, the shows they talk about more. I hear more about Bridgerton than I hear about Thunder Force.
Yeah. Well, I think also there's an interesting dynamic with TV because I've actually started, as I've said in this show and as Dimitri and I have talked about, like I've really started to get really into TV over this last year. And there are shows now that I watch every single week, but it's weird because I have a love-hate relationship with TV shows because in a Netflix world, if I really like Bridgerton, I was able to sit down for the entire weekend and I watched all of Bridgerton. Like we would bang that out over a weekend. Yep. And I was able to watch that and I was kind of like, okay, I saw everything. And it was great. And then like I could kind of participate in the conversation. And then I have like my shows like The New Amsterdam or, This Is Us, or I mean, even as something as silly as The Masked Singer. And I'm watching the show and then I'm like, oh my God, I got to wait a whole nother week to see what happens, and a lot of shows end on cliffhangers and you're kind of, and there's a model that's working, right? Because like obviously Disney Plus adapted the old TV model, like where they put WandaVision out for one episode or Falcon and Winter Soldier. So like they kind of build that conversation. So it happens for the 6 weeks of the episodes where week after week on Thursday night into Friday morning, when you get up and you check Twitter, people are going to be like, oh my God, did you see Falcon and Winter Soldier? This is what happened. And like people are like, oh, this show sucks or this show's great.
It's the new water cooler talk.
Yeah, it's the new water. So, but it's weird because there's not that much that it happens with in either way. Right. So there's no winning formula with TV because unless you have a hit show like a Game of Thrones where people are going to talk about week after week after week whether or not they streamed all of it, or you have a Bridgerton and something like that where you can stream everything at once.
Right.
They're so few and far between, which is something that a lot of people don't also realize, very much like movies. So like we talk about movies a lot and we talk about a Godzilla versus Kong. But there's literally like 10 other movies that open the same week as Godzilla versus Kong that no one talks about. Like Dimitri, like we're talking about the Golden Axe and all these other Golden Arms and whatever the hell it is. Like there's all these other movies that there's just so much content out there that it's just being overlooked, regardless if it's on TV, streaming, movies, everywhere.
Right.
Hollywood needs to take a step back and restructure like what they're putting out.
Or the streaming services. You bring up this great point regarding Netflix because they were kind of the first ones to put an entire season on at once.
Yes.
Everybody else now, when I look at a network television show, I grew up episodically.
Me too. Yeah.
every week you tuned into the show. Every week there would be ratings. And after every show, the following day at work, you talk about the show at the water cooler talk. Netflix puts it all on. And I personally, I love that Netflix does that, because I can watch, a Stranger Things, a Cobra Kai. I can knock it out in a weekend, especially if it's a show that I really enjoy.
Yes.
Other streaming services, when they drip it out that way, I understand your point. Like you make a valid point that it keeps it relevant for 8 weeks or however many episodes a show could be. But if it's a streaming network, I'd rather just put it on out there. I want to watch it at my convenience. But HBO, since day one, since HBO first existed when they did television shows like Dream On, Sex and the City, Philip Marlowe, Tales from the Crypt, they're all episodic. So I'm currently watching The Nevers, and they just had their second episode. I'm okay, because that's what I'm kind of used to with HBO. They've done it forever. So, but I wish Disney would put, whether it's The Mandalorian or WandaVision or Winter Soldier, I wish they would all put them out there, because I just want to watch them. But
they can't though, and the reason why is that, unlike Netflix, they don't have the wealth of content, of new content. So the people like yourself who go back and watch the classics on Disney, you do have to realize that you're in the minority on that.
I know.
There's not a lot of people who subscribe to a subscription service for watching old movies. A lot of people do it for TV shows, no question about it. People love Big Bang Theory and Cheers and Coach and all these other shows where they literally just put that on in the background and leave it on, and it runs on repeat, and they just keep letting it go and go. TV shows fine like that, because they're short and sweet, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Put it on. Oh, I love this episode. That's a funny scene. Movies, there's a different relationship with them.
You're right.
But Disney has the problem, is that they don't have enough original content that people care about. They have a lot of original content, but it's not content that people talk about. The content they talk about is Marvel, it's Star Wars, and that's what they have, and they literally have to keep dripping it out. It's like they had to take a break this week now, and next week we get a Star Wars show, right? We get Bad Batch is now going to replace Falcon and Winter Soldier. So that they're almost following an HBO model, if you think about it, where they're kind of HBO doesn't put a lot of stuff to overlap when they put out a show. They literally all right, Game of Thrones is over. Now you're going to want to watch Succession. It's coming on next. It's sort of they use that, and it's smart marketing, because then they don't have to produce as much content, and they can make really good content and space it out. True.
Hey, when you're right, and you're always right. No, but you are. I didn't think of it. You're far more versed into that streaming universe than I am. Yeah. That makes 100% sense to me. So, you are. And I do get Disney Plus. I keep it. I'll watch Winter Soldier once the show's all done. But last week, they just added in April one of my favorite underappreciated Disney movies of all time, The Island at the Top of the World. Also they have the original Journey to the Center of the Earth, which is a Fox film. So I watch it more for that, and I'll get to Winter Soldier. Are they done with it?
You can watch it now.
Oh, they are done with it? I didn't know that they were done with it. Oh, okay. And I'll watch Bad Batch when they're done with that one too.
That's next week.
Yeah. But I'll wait until all the episodes are available.
Right. So just keeping real quick, just two things in TV world, and then we're going to go into the Oscars. So this has been talked about and rumored for a while, that there was going to be a How I Met Your Mother spinoff, How I Met Your Father, Hilary Duff. Speaking of Disney Plus, funny because they really were going to do this Hilary Duff thing with Lizzie McGuire, And then
I
there was
remember.
a huge contract dispute because of the fact that they didn't want Lizzie McGuire to be an adult. Like, heaven forbid, people who actually were fans of the show realized that Lizzie McGuire grew up and did adult things. But whatever. So now she's excited about doing this after her not Nick at Night. What was that? What's the channel now? TV Land. The TV Land show Younger is coming to an end. She's going to be starring in the TV show. Personally, Ashley loves How I Met Your Mother. Not for me. I'm not a fan of that show. I don't get it.
It was funny. I was not a series regular. I don't watch a ton of TV. But the episodes that I watched, they were fine. Neil Patrick Harris, Jason Segel, Allison Hannigan, Colby.
Smulders.
Yeah. They were all good. They all, I always thought that they put together a really good cast that had a really good chemistry. I just never watched it every week. I never was a regular viewer, but every episode I saw, I was like, how come I don't watch this show? I was like, just don't have time. I watch other stuff. It's fine. It's just, to me, I said this in a text to you, and I said, Jesus, television is more and more becoming like movies. It's like there's just not an original. Like, we can't come up with original shows anymore. Like, do we have to spin off of an older popular show? And the thing is, people love comfort. I have no doubt that it'll be a hit.
I mean, it's the weird thing about it is, you're right. I mean, we had a Lethal Weapon TV show. There was a lot of drama on the Lethal Weapon TV show. We have the Clarice TV show, which, I heard was not that great, but yet I mean, I guess it's doing fairly well. We of course have the Equalizer new reimagining with Queen Latifah that apparently did very well and actually got already greenlit for a season 2.
MacGyver just got canceled. There was a Hawaii Five-0.
Yep.
Which came back. How many freaking CSIs can we have? I know, seriously, or NCIS, and all of this. Why they bring in ratings? People like them. I guess there have always been spin-offs. Not all of them work. Joni Loves Chachi or the Ropers. Good example. The Rope. Yeah. So, they tried with the Brady Bunch a ton of times.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just talking like they've always done this kind of thing.
No, I think it's the lazy movie adaptations into TV series that kind of I understand spin-offs because TV show things there's a history of it. Like even going back to Friends that they did Joey and again, that did not go over well. And it's also weird knowing the history of TV, how many things they try to do a spin-off with, and it very rarely works. So why are you trying?
Angel worked. Angel was a direct spin-off from Buffy, and God, that show also, I think, put out 7 seasons. Star Trek is a fantastic example.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. But the rating viewership did go down. I mean, for most of the Star Trek shows, they didn't really have the same level as the original and Next Generation. Once those other series kind of came on, the viewership started to drop. People who considered themselves fans of the other ones, some of them dropped off. I mean, you even admit this with the CBS one now, the Discovery.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate it.
So, but there seemed to be an evolution with Stars again falling into the same category. They started off, they got one really strong spinoff of Next Generation because I know people love Next Generation, and then Voyager and Deep Space Nine. They were there for a while, but the viewership started
7 seasons. Each one was 7 seasons. The only Star Treks that didn't go 7 seasons were the original and was Star Trek Enterprise. And Star Trek Enterprise was totally a Les Moonves. He didn't like science fiction. He didn't like Star Trek. So the numbers on Enterprise are actually starting to increase. But in any case, we talk about spin-off shows that have worked. Many don't. And I think, though, for How I Met Your Father, whatever.
Yeah.
Who cares?
They're hoping something happens. I mean, I guess the Big Bang Theory show, also Young Sheldon, is, I guess, working. I mean,
It does really well.
Which is fascinating, because going into this conversation about having a different fan base, like Ashley loved Big Bang Theory. Like she would watch that all the time. And she put on a couple episodes of Young Sheldon. She's like, nah, not watching this. So it's very interesting. But I'll tell you something that I am going to watch. This show right here, Ted Lasso, season 2.
Wait. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Oh, can't wait.
Talk about original shows, and I mean really stuff that stands out and, you know, kind of goes on. And we've seen this now, like with Schitt's Creek and Ted Lasso. I mean, these are shows that are just sweeping awards. Audiences love it. It has great replay value. And I wish more and more networks would take risks and do shows like these.
Me too. My friend Ryan said, you got to watch this show. It's a show that you are going to love, specifically you're going to love. And I was hooked in the first episode, and that was the show. Everybody talks about, this is the movie we need right now. I say, no, it's not. But Ted Lasso, during the pandemic, I needed a dose of charm, nice, and it just worked. The trailer for season 2 already has me like with the good feels and the warm hugs. I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Yeah, me either. I'm so very, very excited. And then to close out this, we're just going to go into the Oscar stupidity of the week, and then we'll go into our predictions. So this broke on Monday. Oscar attendees will not wear a face mask during telecast. So to clarify, just so people realize that I did read the article, they're basically saying when they're on camera, they do not have to wear masks. But it does say embedded in this article that when they're not on camera, that it is strongly suggested that they put their masks on. I give up at this point with the commentary. I just wanted to put that out there that happened.
Mask on, mask off.
Mask on. Yeah.
Mask off. Mask on, mask off.
And then before we go into our actual our predictions, which we made super, super easy, so we don't have to go into too much detail. This I love this. Every year something like this happens, and then everyone starts mimicking it. Like everyone has they talked to an Oscar voter. An Oscar voter said something. And, Hollywood Reporter, I think, was the first one this year to come out with this. And, I mean, just the reactions to these movies is funny. Voter calls Soul masterpiece, Mank boring, another round perfect. And I think they changed this headline from when it was originally out, which was basically attacking Minari for being overly long, right? Was that it? And No Man Land, like unwatchable or something. It's funny how, the studio probably saw that and they were like, get that headline changed immediately.
Get that headline changed.
I mean, they really made this seem much more positive as a headline just because Mank is boring, which duh, anyone who's not in the film will tell you Mank is boring.
Look, we're about to do our predictions and yeah.
All right, Dimitri, we're going to start with your predictions. Here's Dimitri's predictions.
Thanks.
And
now,
just real quick, they can read these.
Yeah.
But if there's some that you feel very strongly that shouldn't be, but you're just like, these are my predictions, you can feel free to chime in.
Yeah. And a lot of that's going to be Nomadland. Look, I'm going to be straight up. I'm going to be brutally honest, but I'm not an Academy Award number. I was not a fan of Nomadland, nor was I a fan of Minari. Let's be honest with Minari. They are unlikable people in that entire movie. You had a husband who lied to his family upon why they moved. And then you kind of sympathize with the husband because you get to know the wife, and that wife was just not a nice person. just not a nice person. I'm floored that no one's talking more about Minari in this way, because this is a wife, a mother to children, right? Whose son had a hole in his heart, I believe, his heart or his lung or something. But by moving and being in the Ozarks and actually getting exercise and running, he starts to get healthy and he self-heals. Like, the doctor calls this a miracle. And the wife was thinking and hoping, she was hoping that nothing would have changed with her son so that she could use that as leverage to move back to California. But once the doctor comes out with this miraculous great news about the son, the wife actually gets upset. What mother gets upset that their son, who has this serious illness, it could have stopped his life, and he gets better, but she's so selfish. She was upset at the news. That put me over the edge. And again, fine that it's all Asian. I could have cared less if the family was Greek. There was nothing. The kids pissed in the grandmother's cup. Okay, so in a raunchy comedy, that kind of works. But that poor grandmother, she drank piss. I have a hard time sitting through movies where, to me, the characters are unlikable. And it was, what's his name? Patterson, the neighbor.
Scott, yeah.
Like, he was like the only really likable character in that movie. So that's my thing about Minari. Nomadland. Look, I'm picking Nomadland for Best Picture because that just seems to be what everybody's. It seems to be a huge front runner. I'm picking Carey Mulligan as my leading actress. Writing original screenplay, I'm going with Promising Young Woman. Another Round. Did you end up seeing Another Round?
Yeah, I did. It was really good.
Wasn't that a really good movie? Okay, this one, Scott, short film live action. I just went Two Distant Strangers. I haven't seen them, to be honest. The short live action.
No, I mean, that is so topical right now that there's no way that's not. I mean, like, I just feel like that is just like primed to win.
Really?
It's about police and
oh, is that what it is? Oh, I just picked it because I like the title. Yeah. I'm just going to be honest. But there were a couple of others where I think it's going to go to
very heavy on Mank and all the.
I did. I know that it's again. Look, Mank. I have a feeling it's going to go to Nomadland, but you said it best, Scott. You're out in frickin' nature. Scott, I can send you pictures of flowers that I take when I walk my dog in the morning. and they're great pictures. Should I get a best cinematography? I'm not doing the flower did the work. It bloomed. So when I look at movies for cinematography, I can't deny whether I loved or disliked Mank. I liked it more than you did. I'll say that. But it had great like legit cinematography, not setting up an HD camera in nature. Like, how you can take a bad picture of like the Grand Canyon, I have no idea. So I have to go with a movie where, yeah, David Fincher has a great eye and it's cinematography. Yeah. That's why I picked it, because I can't give everything to Nomadland, but I think it's going to win.
I agree with you. I mean, and I know, like, it sounds harsh saying this, but like, that is, I literally have been saying this since I saw Nomadland. It's like, it's in like the middle of Montana or wherever it takes place, where it's just beautiful, like, landscape all around you. It's like when you look at a Lord of the Rings film and you know that they filmed in like an empty forest in New Zealand, like it's gorgeous, right. Or Australia or wherever. Like, right. It's not hard to bring that to life and just like say, oh, that's a gorgeous backdrop.
Right.
And that's sort of like, oh, I set the camera up when like it's about to go sundown, and look at how the sun comes over
Look
the
how
mountain.
beautiful this is.
It's like I can do that. I literally have done that when I've been on vacation and we watch the sunset from a balcony near a beach, and we put on the camera and watch it, and it looks gorgeous. And I'm not discrediting the cinematographer for being able to do that, but it's just like it's not that like amazing in comparison to some of these other cinematography shots. And I will say I agree with you 100% about Mank. I don't like the movie. But if you had to tell me, like, if I would pick cinematography for Mank over Nomadland, no question asked, even though my ballot says something different. Because
I know. I know. You were going for a win. I was just like, I can't.
It's the same reason why I can't put Nomadland for Best Picture, even though I do really, in my heart, I really do think that it's going to win. I don't want it to win, and I want Promising Young Woman, so I'm like, I'm sucking it up, and I'm putting it as my Best Picture, even though I'm sure I'm going to lose that category.
I've wanted Promising Young Woman from the day that I saw it. I also noticed that you had Anthony Hopkins down.
Just because there's these mumblings right now. There's so many mumblings about like there's going to be an upset with the acting category. So that to me, I'm like, it's a legend. And I'm kind of like, that's the only reason. And I mean, again, I'm not shitting on Chadwick Boseman. I love Chadwick Boseman. I think he was an incredible actor who was taken way, way, way too soon. But if I'm looking at the performances, I mean, this is an Anthony Hopkins like top-notch performance, one of the best ones he's delivered.
To me, it's hands down. I mean, to me, who did I put? Put mine up there, please, because I forget. I just did.
You put Chadwick
Boseman. Yeah, I just think Hollywood loves to check off boxes, and his performance is really good, and it's definitely worth watching. He was a really good actor.
Yeah.
Even in movies like 21 Bridges, which isn't a great movie, but he elevates the story, right? The mere fact he's no longer with us it's just tragic. So, but yeah, Anthony Hopkins' performance, when you put them side by side, Anthony Hopkins' performance is master class, So, yeah, you're right. I picked Mank from makeup because I think some of the makeup was great. I picked it for production design because, again, everything looked fantastic in Mank, and Amanda Seyfried's costume and making all of those I love that time period. So that's why I went with Mank, going against the grain, knowing that it probably won't win. And those, there were many that I went with my heart. I should have been like you, though. I should have gone with my heart for Best Picture. I just think.
No, you're right. You're going to be right. No, I mean,
I think it's Nomadland,
as much as I don't want to admit it, you're going to be right. I mean, last night's Spirit Awards pretty much. If anything was going to have a different winner, it would have been last night, because Spirit Awards tend to go a little bit off the beaten path.
Right.
And I was thinking like Minari was going to win that last night. And when I saw Nomadland, I was like, all right.
Yeah, I was the same way. I think this is going to be the year where the Spirit Awards are the true harbinger for what is going to transpire for Oscar. We had Tenet for visual effects. To me, that's a no-brainer. Again, don't ask me what the hell that movie was about, but visual effects were fantastic.
I agree.
I think there were some that were the same on. Look, you and I agree. It's going to be the lowest rated Oscars. Nobody outside of our Hollywood bubble. And I mean, I feel sorry for the filmmakers this year, because like Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, even Minari, they've gotten a lot of good word, but had they been able to flourish in the art house and build, you'd be talking about them a lot more. People are having a hard time finding them. They don't know how to watch them. And then when they watch them, because they hear it so good, they go, what? When is she going to get cross country? Like,
Yeah.
as Melissa, the host, the very funny host, she said it best. She goes, independent movie. She goes, oh yeah, I watched. Oh, this movie had, this woman went homeless. He went deaf. Da, da, da. Yay! What a great time at the movies. And that's exactly what this year was. I can't wait to talk about our Oscar. I can't wait to talk about our Oscar recap.
Oh, next week.
Next week.
Yeah, I know.
Right? I mean, I can't wait. So,
all right, everybody. So with that note,
thanks.
we will be back next Friday at 11 o'clock. Thank you so much for watching. Share, comment in the comments below if you want, or on Twitter or social media. Go ahead, share. Who do you think's going to win the top prize of the Oscars?
Who do you think?
Let us know. And we'll see you next Friday. Thanks so much again for tuning in.
Thanks.
And we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.